Welcome to the official Florida Bar Podcast, where we cover practice management, leadership, and what's happening in Florida law. Brought to you by the Florida Bar Practice Resource Institute. You're listening to Legal Talk Network.
Hello, and welcome to the Florida Bar Podcast, brought to you by the Practice Resource Institute on Legal Talk Network. We're glad you're joining us. This is Christine Bilbrey, and I'm a practice management advisor at PRI and one of the hosts for today's show, which is being recorded from our offices in Tallahassee, Florida. My co-host is Jonathon Israel.
Hello, I'm Jonathon Israel, and I'm the director of the Florida Bar's Practice Resource Institute. Our goal here at PRI is to assist Florida attorneys with running the business side of their law practices. We'll be focusing on a different aspect of technology each month, and we'll carry that theme through our newsletter and website with related tech tips and articles.
So this month at PRI, our topic is artificial intelligence. And joining us today is Noory Bechor. Nuri is the CEO and founder of LawGeeks, and he's a man on a mission. He wants to revolutionize the legal world through innovative technology. As a former commercial lawyer, Nuri combines his years of experience and entrepreneurial spirit to help other lawyers #love legal again, making their work easy, efficient, and even more impactful. Welcome to the show, Nuri.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be here.
So, Nuri, tell our listeners a little bit about your background, how and why you started LawGeeks.
Sure, absolutely. So my background, as you mentioned before, is business law. I was a commercial lawyer working at the biggest law firm in Israel. I did that for close to 8 years. And while doing that, I realized two things. One was that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And the other one, more important, is I was very frustrated by how inefficient the legal world is. I was very frustrated by the fact that lawyers, unlike many other professionals, don't really have sophisticated technological tools to allow them to do their job better and more efficiently. And this is really what drove me to found LawGeeks. I was thinking constantly about the fact that as a lawyer, I was reinventing the wheel for every client, for every deal, having to redraft contracts, review them. And I was thinking, maybe there's a way of doing that better and more efficiently. And my answer was, if we can really manage to train the computer to understand this language, the language of contract, we can use the computer to do things which lawyers currently do manually, mainly focusing on tasks which are done on a day-to-day basis, the more mundane tasks, the simple things that lawyers do, but they spend so much time and energy doing them instead of focusing on high-value activities where their brain power is used more properly.
Wow, that's great. One of the interesting things, I think, when I hear your story and kind of read your bio is that a lot of the stories you see about artificial intelligence is how it's going to take away people's jobs and, lawyers are going to have to find new work. But really what you've done is the opposite. You've taken the technology to make your job more efficient and let you focus on the things you really want to focus on, not having to do the mundane tasks of reviewing the contracts for, simple language that, like you said, the computer could be trained to do and take that burden off of the attorneys.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely understand each other well. I think that, lawyers generally are very intelligent, they're well-trained, and they're well-educated. And it's a tragedy that in this profession, a lot of their time is actually spent doing tasks which really, very junior people that don't have legal background actually can do. And this is where I started thinking about automation and came up with the idea for LawGeeks. I think that lawyers' time will be much better spent doing much more high-value tasks which benefit their clients. And of course, clients often complain about how expensive legal services are. And especially in this kind of atmosphere, I think us as lawyers, we need to take a close look at the work that we are doing and ask ourselves, are we really efficient? Are we doing the right things? Can we do things better? it can be using AI, and it can be using other things. There are other tools, not necessarily for artificial intelligence, but I think, as a lawyer, you constantly need to focus on providing the best service for your clients, and it definitely merits also evaluating the way you do your job and the tools that you are using.
That's wonderful. I want to get into the whole artificial intelligence side of your product and more generally too, because I think a lot of times when people hear AI, we've all seen different science fiction movies and, we think about maybe the Siri on our iPhone or talking to Alexa through our Amazon Echo. But can you give our listeners an idea of what separates artificial intelligence from just like regular computer software?
Yeah, sure thing. And with your permission, I'll focus on our implementation of artificial intelligence, as there are many different versions of AI. So I think for us, AI basically means underlying algorithms, which is computer code, that can basically be trained to understand the language of contracts. So in our case, we are focused on a branch of artificial intelligence, which is called machine learning. And in machine learning, what you do is you give the computer examples. So let's say I want to train the computer to identify a picture of a dog. Instead of creating all these rules for the computer, telling him a dog is this size and has these types of colors, I just show him examples of photos of dogs. And the way machine learning works is as the computer sees more pictures of dogs, it creates rules automatically of what a dog looks like based on the data that it collects. So, after seeing 20 pictures of dogs, it has a good idea of what is the relative size or variance in the size of dogs, the fact that they have 4 legs, and the different colors that they might come in. And then if you give them actually photos of cats and tell them these are cats and not dogs, you're training the computer even better to identify dogs in the future. So this is what our implementation of AI and machine learning. We basically train the computer by giving it examples of different legal contracts and different legal concepts or provisions. And that way, the computer, as it sees more examples, becomes smarter and smarter. And as it becomes smarter and smarter, it becomes more efficient and can replace the work that lawyers currently do on the low level, on the low end of the scale. So we have now reached a level where our computer is very similar to a paralegal or a young lawyer in its ability to take a document, first of all, automatically read through it, understand what type of document it is. Is it an employment agreement? Is it a non-disclosure agreement? Is it a commercial lease? So first of all, the computer can identify what type of document it is, and then it can dive deep into the document to understand what legal concepts the document includes. So basically, the AI, our engine, maps the document automatically, and because it saw, and it was trained using many other similar documents, it can flag potential issues in the specific document that it is now analyzing. So it can tell you, for example, again, automatically, what is missing from the document, which basically means compared to all of the other similar documents in our database, what items that appear in the database are missing from the specific contract. And the flip side is it can also tell you what items which are currently in the document are not common, meaning that they don't appear in many other documents in our database. And this, when you think about it, it's pretty much what lawyers do. They take a document, they read it, and then they tell their clients what's missing or what's not standard compared to their accumulated experience and all of the other documents that they've seen in the past. So we found a way using artificial intelligence using the training methodology that I just explained to you guys to replace this manual work that is done by lawyers. Now, it's important to understand that AI is now, there's a very big hype around AI, but people that actually work with AI, that are building these solutions, everyone understands that, in the next decade or two at least, you cannot really talk about AI replacing actual judgment of experienced lawyers. It can help lawyers automate the low-end portion of their work, but you will always need the experienced lawyer to be able to make decisions with respect to the specific circumstances and to be able to go much deeper into the document and reach more important and more insightful conclusions. So what we are focusing on in LawGeeks is basically take the simple documents, the documents that businesses are doing on a day-to-day basis, and automate them so that lawyers can focus on the more important things like contract negotiation, compliance, drafting larger transactions, and things like that.
And from reading about your product, I know that right now that it speaks English mainly. And so I just read an article about Google Brain and how they've made these huge advances in Google Translate. Do you foresee a time where you could marry your product with a translation program so that I know that you're an international attorney. So is that something that you think that you'll move towards later?
Yeah, so definitely that's on the game plan. I think, and international attorneys do understand that there is a difference between contracts in different geographies. There are a lot of things in common, but there are also many differences between contracts in different geographies. And I think one of the biggest challenges when you're doing AI in legal is your ability not to go after a one-size-fits-all solution. Lawyers are actually valuable because of their ability to be very, very customized and tailor their feedback to the specific circumstances. And when you're doing AI in legal, you have to bear that in mind. So, for example, an AI solution that can provide a single analysis, irrespective of the jurisdiction, would not be very valuable, because you have to take into account the jurisdiction. You have to take into account the governing law. You have to take into account as much as possible from the circumstances. So the more granular you can get with your analysis, the more valuable it is. Again, I always compare what we are doing with AI with what happens in the real legal world. And I tell myself that people go and pay lawyers a significant premium the more customized and specific they can be, right? You are paying them for their expertise, for the accumulated knowledge in a specific domain, in specific geography, in specific circumstances.
Nuri, I think you touched on briefly the kind of contracts that you see coming into the system right now. You mentioned employment contracts, non-disclosure agreements, and corporate leases. Who do you see right now as being the main users of a product like LawGeeks?
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of traction actually from the in-house counsels. So in-house counsels, in-house legal departments. These guys, I think, are a bit different than law firms in the sense that we found them to be a bit more innovative compared to the law firms. And also, they have a much more focus around efficiency, because they keep feeling the heat from the other departments in the organizations about not being the bottleneck in the organization and keeping the documents moving quickly, getting a very fast turnaround time. So definitely in-house counsels are a very good target audience for us. We've seen a lot of traction from them. And specifically in terms of contracts and areas, I would say that there are specific industries where you can say that contracts are much more common. So contracts are done on a more on a higher volume and on a day-to-day basis, like finance and insurance and banking. These are all areas where contracts are exchanged constantly. So that's about the industries. And about the contract types, so yes, we've mentioned non-disclosure agreements, employment, commercial leases, a variety of services agreements. SaaS agreements are now very common in LawGeeks. And I think for us, this is not a surprise. So like I said, contracts that are done on a day-to-day basis at high volume are the first suspects for automation using technologies like ours.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess when you think about trying to break into, maybe some of the smaller or solo law firms, I think a lot of that comes down to trust and how do you, building that trust that, this artificial intelligence is really going to give them the right answer when it's reviewing a contract. I mean, how do you help them understand the technology and build that trust on, letting go of the control factor, that they have to have control and have to review it on their own, that they can trust the system?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is obviously a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge. It's an educational challenge that we have to focus on. And I think what we're doing right now with this interview and many others that we should do is about really explaining or demystifying artificial intelligence in law and really explaining to lawyers that this change is happening, that the way the industry has been operating until now does make sense, and that lawyers really need to reinvent themselves. And I think that lawyers that will not be afraid from AI and that will open the door for AI tools like LawGeeks are in the end going to lead the market for years to come. So it's not about AI replacing you. It's about how can I use AI in order to do my job better, in order to offer a better service for my clients. And I think lawyers that do open the door and start using LawGeeks see a very quick impact on the way they practice their legal activities. And they just, they get hooked because they see that now they have another set of eyes that can go through the document and make sure that they didn't miss anything and flag issues for their attention. So I think it's all about just using it and just opening the door and not being afraid of technology. And I think it's on us to help educate the market, and it's on the lawyers from the law firm to be more open towards innovation.
Yeah, Jonathon and I got to watch a demo of what would happen when an attorney has uploaded a contract and exactly how it goes through the different clauses. We were very impressed by that. And I love that your product is in reach right now because so much of artificial intelligence is really only for big law. Like the artificial intelligence attorney Ross has gotten a lot of press lately from the makers of Watson that went on the show Jeopardy. But so where are we going with this? So someone who is wading in and they're trying LawGeeks, what are we going to see in the future for LawGeeks or just artificial intelligence in general? Where are we headed?
Yes, that's a great point. So I think where LawGeeks is a bit different from other AI projects, we are very much focused on making this technology accessible to everyone. We are not a solution that you have to pay 7-digit figures in order to try out and license. This is basically a solution that you can start using tomorrow. Because it's available online, it's a pretty simple sign-up process to get started with LawGeeks. And I think our mission is really to make AI in law accessible to lawyers everywhere. And we believe that, the more lawyers would use it, the more both the profession of law and the clients of law firms and in-house legal departments get a better service and become better. And we believe, obviously, people sometimes miss this point. But lawyers and contracts are part of the business world. They are actually one of the drivers of the business world. I think if we practice law better, practice commercial law better, it means that we are conducting business better. It means that deals get done faster, and it means that the business world is moving more efficiently. And this is what we are about. So I think for LawGeeks in the future, we're obviously going to expand the categories, the contract categories that we support. We are constantly adding new features for LawGeeks, focusing on how we make this even simpler, even more intuitive, even, completely making AI in law accessible, demystified, and the opposite of being, scary, complicated, and something that only huge law firms with very big IT departments and knowledge management can start using. So we are really a wide solution, which we believe in a couple of years, many, many lawyers are going to use.
Absolutely. I think when they take a look at the product, they're going to want to try it out.
Yeah. Nora, could you tell some of our listeners, how it is they could get a demo of LawGeeks, or if they wanted to even start using the product, where they go and how they get started with it?
Yeah, of course. So as I mentioned, LawGeeks currently focuses obviously on the area of contracts, specifically commercial contracts. And to use LawGeeks, it's pretty simple. You just go to our website, www.lawgeeks, which is spelled LawGeeks.com, and you sign up for a demo. Once you sign up for a demo, one of our sales representatives will contact you, set you up with a demo, show you the product, walk you through it. If you want, we can set you up with a demo account for you to play with. And then after that, we can tailor a plan for your needs depending on the volume of contracts that you expect to run through the system on a monthly basis. But it's, there is no setup, basically. It's a cloud solution which you can get started using immediately.
Excellent. So it looks like we've reached the end of our program, and I want to thank Noory Bechor for joining us today.
The pleasure was mine, guys. Thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed this.
Thank you. If our listeners have other questions or they want to follow up with you, are you on social media? How can they find you?
Yeah, sure thing. So LawGeeks has a Twitter account. We also have a Facebook page. I think also a LinkedIn page. So you can reach us through any social media. And my email, you can reach me directly if you like via email. It's Nuri, Noory, @lawgeeks.com. Feel free to send me messages, questions, anything I can help getting you to understand better about AI, legal, LawGeeks specifically, or, how can you practice more efficiently. Feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to assist.
Thank you. That's wonderful. So this has been another edition of the Florida Bar Podcast, brought to you by the Practice Resource Institute on Legal Talk Network. I'm Christine Bilbrey.
And I'm Jonathon Israel. Until next time, thanks for listening.
The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer. Thanks for listening to the official Florida Bar Podcast, brought to you by the Florida Bar Practice Resource Institute and produced by the broadcast professionals at Legal Talk Network. Subscribe to the RSS feed on LegalTalkNetwork.com or in iTunes.